Stockpit Judges. My name is Sharma and I'm currently a freshman at Emerald High School. And today I would like to present to you NVIDIA. Now this is a company which I believe has the greatest potential for increasing valuation as well as bringing its technology to every corner of the world, which is an advantage unlike any other company has ever had before it. Now this is what really fuels my value. This is what really fuels my core value of the company of NVIDIA being a strong buy. So without further ado, let's get into it. Some general info about NVIDIA Corporation is that they work in the industry of semiconductors, with their main headquarters being in Santa Clara, California. Now, I have them set as a current price of $183, with their target price being $220. So let's get into their business description. I'm sure that many of you have already heard of their revolutionary gaming GPUs. However, now they currently work as the main centerpiece in the AI market revolution, as they're the designers and suppliers of high-performance GPUs, supplying over 90% of the global AI workforce, with them working in the markets of AI and machine learning, high-performance computing, medical and automotive, gaming and visualization, as well as data centers. And their main products and customers are 80% of over foreign revenue, and with the majority of their sales being from foreign countries. And they are able to generate hundreds of billions of dollars in revenue each year because of their revolutionary H20 and Blackwell GPU products, as well as their CUDA ecosystem. As a matter of fact, over 56% of their revenue comes from data centers, and this figure is only increasing year after year. And furthermore, they have captured more than 87.7% of the global market share. Now, one of NVIDIA's greatest advantages is held in their asset-light and fabless business model. This means that their main company value is not held in tangible assets, rather in intellectual property, such as their architecture designs and models. Now, what this means is that they hold a great advantage within their manufacturing costs, because they are able to outsource to TSMC, through which they can avoid heavy cost of goods expenses. This allows them to invest more money into R&D than other competitors can, as they're simply trying to organize newer and more efficient manufacturing processes with a trade-off for a much more mediocre product. As a matter of fact, this impact is shown here in Figure 3, where their research and development growth has sped up from over 12.6% to over 32% from the span of 2024 to 2025. Now this brings me to some of my major catalysts. Now, one of their main major catalysts includes their unscalable CUDA and software mode. Now, I'm sure, as most of you know, many of their data centers are over 90% of the world's data centers run on NVIDIA GPU and utilize the CUDA software. Now, what this means is that I'm sure that many investors have already seen the risk of ASICs growing as a threat to NVIDIA. However, I'm here to assure you that they are not going to be a threat, because ASICs take billions of dollars and years to develop, while NVIDIA's products have already been thoroughly tested and are extremely easy to install. This is mainly because of their extreme R&D innovation, where their heavy R&D investments have allowed them to invest and scale much faster than any of their competition ever could. As a matter of fact, they spent over $15.8 billion in just 2025 alone, and furthermore, their global dominance as a corporation is highlighted in figures 1 and 2, as whenever NVIDIA develops new products, companies scramble to get them. From 2020 to 2025, companies like Microsoft, Amazon, Google, and Meta nearly doubled their spending on cloud architecture products. Now, the last catalyst I would like to talk about is their expansion across various markets. With AI infrastructure demand increasing within the automotive and medical and robotics industry, this creates multiple opportunities for NVIDIA to tap into new sources of revenue, as well as create new and meaningful architecture that affects not only countries and corporations, however, normal daily consumers. Now that we know NVIDIA has one of the best products in the world, how does this truly play out in the market? Well, as I'm sure you all know, many companies are choosing to move away from GPUs to ASICs in order to gain more control over their operations. However, the pace change in AI models is one of the greatest weaknesses of ASICs, which is currently a major risk. This is mainly because ASICs take over 35 years to develop, and AI models are developing much faster than ASIC cycles ever can. So what this means is that this leaves an extremely short profit window for many companies, mainly because by the time they develop an ASIC GPU in 3 to 5 years, they've already spent billions of dollars, and now they actually have a piece of architecture that is incomplete and obsolete when compared to the newest NVIDIA GPUs. Furthermore, another major reason for NVIDIA's success is their growth in AI adoption. As AI adoption has been accelerating rapidly within many countries and industries, as I'm sure we can see on a day-to-day basis. And furthermore, NVIDIA has taken full advantages of this and integrated into various different sectors and increased their sources of revenue and established key partnerships with many major countries. Now, this brings me to my major point of geopolitical moat, where by establishing a global network of sovereign interests and giving high value infrastructure to powerful governments, NVIDIA now has the backing of over 5 different powerful countries should the Taiwan Strait close down or become restricted. Now many governments have an incentive to help NVIDIA produce their AI architecture should their main foundry, TSMC, become compromised. This is because without NVIDIA support, the entire foundation of countries' AI revolutions would simply cease to exist. And furthermore, if they cannot produce goods, it is going to halt the development of hundreds of LLM models, advancements in key medical algorithms, as well as crash preventative systems. Now, NVIDIA's significant geopolitical moat actually gives them a significant edge against competitors, because while NVIDIA operates on a global scale, Intel and AMD mainly cater only to America, which places infinite risk on their supply chain, as well as reduces their meaningful partnerships, because nobody's going to be there if should anything happen to their manufacturers, and they have to spend billions of dollars of their own money and drive themselves into debt. Now, this brings me to talk about NVIDIA's extreme financial prowess. Now, first, let's talk about NVIDIA's significant cash flow. They have a consistently growing operating cash flow, which has currently increased over 41% year over year. Now, what this means is that it gives them large security against geopolitical risks, and furthermore, this increased free cash flow gives a major cash secured advantage for NVIDIA, which they can use should any of their assets become compromised. Furthermore, the increasing free cash flow yield and operating cash flow also makes the stock look more appealing to investors, because this shows them that NVIDIA can indeed give them returns. Furthermore, while their dividend yield may be low, with their FCF yield is increasing, which, as I previously mentioned, increases earnings per share potential for various investors. And this is actually a worthwhile trade-off, because investors know that by letting NVIDIA invest into new architecture, this will effectively drive up their stock price and popularity. Furthermore, with NVIDIA having such a great product, this brings them extreme financial agility, because they're able to ensure first priority by being able to pay billions of dollars upfront to get the newest and most premium resources, as well as manufacturing. And furthermore, their asset-light business model ensures that their loss from tangible assets is very limited, unlike Intel. And should anything happen to TSMC, they can also establish foundries in America instead of also having to rely on other countries due to their significant cash net. Now let's take a look at how all of these factors affect NVIDIA's valuation. Now, I'm sure many of you may be wondering, is NVIDIA's growth already priced in? As a matter of fact, my PEG analysis indicates the exact opposite. NVIDIA is actually not overvalued. It is actually undervalued, because the price earnings to growth ratio sits well underneath 1 at 0.7. And this shows that the current nominal price that investors are actually paying for NVIDIA is actually undervalued, meaning that despite all the explosive growth it has experienced, this means there's still much more room for it to grow in the future, making it a much more valuable stock to investors. Furthermore, their ROIC to WACC ratio is a much more definitive proof of their valuation growth, as the ROIC exceeds the WACC by more than 80%. What this means is that every dollar NVIDIA invests allows them to generate rapid and compounding profits. So what this means is that every dollar that NVIDIA invests actually allows them to generate rapid and compounding profits. And since their ROIC to WACC actually exceeds their WACC by more than 80%, this shows that every dollar that NVIDIA invests allows them to generate rapid and compounding profits. So what this means is that it actually just proves the efficiency of their asset-light business model compared to various other companies. Now, my final piece of proof for NVIDIA's undervalued stock is the DCF analysis. By using a conservative estimate of an 8% annual growth rate, 11% discount rate, and a 3% rate of terminal growth, my DCF model suggests that the intrinsic value to be at around $490 per share. Now, what this means is that since the current price is actually lower than the intrinsic value, this means that the company is actually undervalued and has long-term growth potential, as previously stated. So even with the conservative growth measures, NVIDIA can still generate significant revenue in the future for their investors. Now, this brings me to my ESG considerations, which actually have the greatest impact on their company and employees. First of all, their environmental impact. NVIDIA has been able to develop special bioswales and closed-loop cooling systems and incorporate over 370 kilowatts of solar panels, through which they can power over 76% of their appliances using sustainable and renewable energy. Furthermore, they have had a profound social impact by helping over 1,700 small startups with their Inception program and providing 100% pay parity for men and women, which is actually the most profound impact on their employees. Furthermore, NVIDIA's Deep Learning Institute really gives the conveniences of AI and code by providing hundreds of communities with the privilege to learn code and learn how to use AI. Now, lastly, another major factor as to why they're the global leader in AI is due to their effective governance. This is mainly because the board is extremely unbiased, as no one is a relative or close friend to the CEO, and as a matter of fact, their board of supervisors actually operates as a separate entity from NVIDIA, meaning that their decisions can in no way be affected by CEO Jensen Huang. Furthermore, they have 24/7 employee support where they can report incidents or issues without having any risk of being fired. Now to conclude, I will talk about AI's impact on NVIDIA. As I'm sure you all know, AI will actually have the most profound impact on NVIDIA as a company, because their recent development and leadership in the AI sector has allowed them to establish hundreds of partnerships, give millions the tools to learn coding, and create brand new eco-friendly technology like no one ever has. And in the end, they ended up becoming the most indispensable assets for various corporations and countries. Thank you for listening.